right, buckle up. It's your host, Mary Kate Beck, MKB for short. Welcome to episode 28, which is my lucky number because my birthday is February 8th. Hey, I'm having a bit of a weird day. I got home, my carbon monoxide alarm was going off, so I called the fire department, and it turns out it was just a low battery. False alarm. Even when it's a plug-in, it still has a battery. Who knew? But better safe than sorry. Plus, the firemen were super hot, and they came in lights and sirens a-blaring. So honestly, it was just worth it for the attention. Come see me perform stand-up comedy this Thursday, December 19th at Chief O'Neill's in Avondale at 8 p.m. I would love to see you there. I was at Second City a couple of weeks ago, and a guy came up to me and said he listened to this podcast and came out because I talked about it on the show. So this shit works. You know what else works? Subscribes, stars, reviews. That's what gets this show seen. So if you are loving it, subscribe or follow wherever you're listening. Leave a written review so I can read it on the air and tell your friends about this show. It helps this podcast so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, make sure to follow this podcast on social media. It's a great way to see pictures of guests, their trips, hear highlights from other episodes you may have missed, and see when new episodes come out every Monday. And if you have a story of your own, or if you're in Chicago and you want to be a guest, email traveldisasterspodcast@gmail.com. I would love to have you. Moving on to my gorgeous guest today. She is a stand-up comedian, full-time working and avid traveling badass bitch. I am so excited to have her in the hot seat today. You might know her from being a guest on Crushes and Buddy of the Groom, which are also podcasts in the People of Comedy Network. But today, she's going to tell us about her girls' trip to Thailand, where they frolic on beaches, dance in the moonlight, and almost get human trafficked. What? How? You're going to have to listen to find out. So here we go. It's you and me, baby. We're going on the trip from hell, where every flight is missed. They lose your luggage, and you're in the middle seat between a sumo wrestler and a screaming baby. Don't worry, I'm coming along for the ride. I'm Mary Kate Beck, and this is Travel Disasters. Of course, you have the new iPhone. Fuck you.
Oh, I was on an iPhone 6 until a week ago.
That makes me feel better.
Everyone's like, oh my God, you bitch. And I'm like, no, I had a 6. I had a 6 and it was cracked and it didn't charge.
That makes me feel better. Because the people that like had the iPhone 10 Plus that like got the iPhone 11 like pre-ordered, I'm like, you have a trust fund. No. Like, I don't like you anymore.
No, I had an iPhone 6 that I bought off of my brother when my iPhone 5 broke, so it was even secondhand. So
you earned
it, baby.
New iPhone. I'm proud of you. Well, I'm glad you have a case on it. The people that just freeball it for like...
Oh, absolutely.
When they get the brand new ones just to like show its sexy skin.
I know. I was walking out of the store and the guy was like, do you want a case? And I was like, absolutely, I want a case.
I can't believe you almost let me leave here without one.
And I hate, this is so annoying, but I hate that I have the rose one and the case is like this black because it doesn't match and it drives me nuts. But
whatever. But that's like a temporary like safety precaution.
I mean, it was
case.
like $50.
You can get, like,
I'm gonna keep it forever.
You're so frugal. I love it.
I mean, I'm never gonna change it. I'm always gonna. Every time I look at my beautiful new phone, I'm gonna be like, oh, I hate
this case.
Yep.
Oh
Absolutely.
my God.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
I'm so happy to be here.
Me too.
It's so great.
I was just joking when you got in here. We finally exchanged phone numbers like this weekend when I was hammered and demanded it.
You're like, give me your number. And I was like, okay, I am in bed, but sure, why not?
Yeah. We've been communicating via DM.
I know.
For years.
I know. It's fantastic.
I know. But that's like,
I feel like I don't have most comics' numbers. Like I'm usually in their DMs which is fine. It was funny actually when, you know how the iPhone will tell you who, like, this might be.
Yes.
And it was like, it came up and it was like, this might be Travel Disasters. And I was
my
like,
God.
oh my God, it's Mary Kate.
It does that to me when I text myself.
Does it really?
Like, does my podcast have a better brand than I do?
I mean, that's kind of the goal, isn't it?
I hope so. But I'm like, wait.
That's amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like you are constantly traveling. One of like the best DMs I think you ever sent me was like, I took a selfie of myself before I got on a plane for Europe And I was like, just took a sleeping pill and they just told us that they delayed the flight 45 minutes. And you're like, no, honey, you got to wait till those wheels are up before you pop drugs. And I was like,
it's true. I'm sure you were just like sitting, because what if you
They
got
were like
delayed?
about to board us.
No, you can't
And I
do
was
that.
like, okay, I'll take my sleeping pill now.
No.
And then I was like a barely functioning human being when we were boarding the plane an hour later, like delirious. Someone had to like help me lift my bag.
I'm sure, because the scariest thing is like, what if you got delayed 4 hours and you were just like awake on an Ambien in like O'Hare? Can you imagine?
Yeah, it would be horrible.
Yeah,
You'd
have
be
to.
like,
I don't remember saying that, but it sounds very on brand for me.
Oh my God, yeah. But I like thought of that. I will never forget it. I'm like, oh, I won't wait until I'm like taking off.
You have to do that. A bad thing has to happen to you once for you to learn those lessons. Like you have to be like,
I was a wet noodle, like going down that aisle. They were like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm like, "Hey, did you get a pill?" Like,
it's like, have you ever been drunk before you got on a plane?
Oh
before?
my God, yes.
Yeah, it's awful. Like I was coming back. I had one time I was on a work trip in Vegas and I was in the airport and I'd been out all night and I got on the plane at like, it was like a 6 a.m. flight home, and someone stopped me in the Vegas airport and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh, that's bad if that's happening in Vegas where like everyone's at their worst."
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. That's horrible.
It's horrible. Yeah. So that's why you can't do the real shit until your wheels up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Never again.
No.
But thank you. It
my
saved
God.
my life. Like from the travel expert herself.
You have to have a lot of hacks. I always do half a Xanax. And if I'm doing a long flight, it's half a Xanax and half a glass of wine, and I'm out for like 7 hours.
That sounds delicious.
It's really
That sounds like
nice.
a good Friday night.
I call it for like Sundays or international flights.
Oh, yes.
It's my cocktail of choice.
I love that.
I just gave Mike a Xanax for the first one he's ever had. I gave it to him last night. Mike,
sweet baby
listeners
angel.
at home, Mike is my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he like took it, and then like 10 minutes later, he was like,
yeah. It's like you're
it's great.
on a cloud.
Yeah.
And
It's
like,
fantastic.
I know. Just
It's
like
great.
being hugged and
it's
warm.
so warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and then you don't
warm.
feel shitty when you wake up. It's amazing. Yeah.
You're just refreshed.
Yeah, it's so good. It's my favorite.
I love it.
It's so good. Yeah.
Well, I know that you travel all the time,
Yes.
but I always like to ask people before we kind of dive in, like what that travel scale like means to them. So on a scale of like hermit crab or like hamster in a wheel that like is just going in circles but never leaves the cage to like humpback whales that travel for 6 months to eat and then travel for the other 6 months to like bang. Where do you fall on this scale?
I'm for sure closer to the humpback whale.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a humpback whale. I get
That's what every woman wants to be compared to. Just a big old
whale.
whale.
A big old whale that comes back to fuck.
Damn, I should have thought of a better analogy.
No, I love it. Whales are my favorite animals. They're
adorable.
majestic. So
Exactly.
It's great. My travel tends to be like you were just saying before we started, you're like, you've been here for a while, and that happens, and then I get very anxious, and all of a sudden I overextend myself, and then I'm like, I'm literally crippling anxiety of the 2 weeks of travel I have coming up. And then I'll just be here for another while. And then I'll go back out for a while. And
so you're kind of like two extremes where it's like when you're home, you're kind of like homebody.
Here for a bit.
And then when you're like, you get the itch to travel or you have to travel for work.
Yeah,
It's
like
just back to back to back.
My next 2 weeks, I had to send my parents like an itinerary because I was so anxious about like, they just are not going to know where I am because we're going to a bachelorette party tomorrow. And then it's great. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. And then I'm flying straight from there to a family thing out in DC for a day.
Oh, wow.
And then I come back and we just booked a last minute trip. This is very exciting. And this is not on brand for me, listeners at home. I'm a bougie bitch, but I'm not this bougie. But we found very cheap flights. My boyfriend got a new job and he has like a couple weeks off in between. We found very cheap flights to Europe.
Oh, hell
So we just booked them like 3 days ago and we're going, which is going to be, it's going to be great. But I was like,
awesome.
I have 10 flights in 8 days. I'm a little concerned.
Damn. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I'm very anxious. And then it will be over and I'll be here until for months. And then it just sounds so bougie, but
I know.
honey,
but those are all like amazing things.
They are, and they don't happen
and they're not
often.
work related, which I'm
None
like,
of them
proud
is work related.
of you.
I know. Usually it's all work stuff.
I know.
Usually I try because I travel so much for work that I try to make fun trips out of it.
Yeah.
So if I'm like going to New York for work, which happens a lot, I'll try to go early to see friends. And then everyone's like, well, you're always in New York. And I'm like, yeah, I have to go for work. And I'm just trying to make my life work.
Yes.
You get it. You have a day job.
Totally.
That's real.
Yeah. And it's like, well, while I'm there, I don't want to be cooped up in a hotel and like just talking to coworkers.
Yes.
Like I'm going to get a cocktail with
absolutely
one of my friends from college.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to fly in 6 hours early and see a play if I can.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're doing all the right things and do it on the company's dime.
Yes.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
You have to I always say you got to make the man work for you.
Yes.
And it doesn't work, but I do my best.
I feel you, girl.
Rules, but we do our best.
Oh my God, that's so funny. That explains Mike's status the other day, and because he was like, "What do I do in like Paris, Germany, and like something like all these like amazing places?" And I was like, well, you could propose. And he was like,
I saw that.
He was like, fuck you. But I'm like, what are you going there for? The most romantic cities ever. And
I know, I was at dinner with some girlfriends on Saturday and they were like, do you think he's going to propose while you're there? And I was like, we literally booked these flights 4 hours ago.
Yeah. Like if he has something up his sleeve, that'd be really impressive.
There would be no way for that. So no, I think we're just going to go to eat mushrooms and drink wine. And
oh my God.
It's going to be great.
It'll be so great.
Yeah. We were like, the flights, I don't know how they were, but.
What did you use? Like flight scanner?
Google Flight Search.
Oh.
I just put in our dates and where we were coming from. And then I set the maximum and it was like, oh, you could go to Amsterdam.
No location?
No, you can just tell it. I have no idea where I want to go.
This is my budget.
This is my budget. This is how far time-wise I'm willing to spend traveling. So like 3 hours away or 15 hours away, I'm willing to spend $100 or $5,000.
Yeah.
And it'll just spit out results for you.
Oh my God. Yeah. I need to do this.
I recommend it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do that because I'm looking for somewhere to go like for my birthday and I'm just like
when's your birthday?
Stumped. It's in February, which is like a shitty time.
Go to Mexico.
I know. I think I might just go by myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For like a long weekend.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
This is, who's the queen of doing this? Audrey Jonas.
Ooh.
Who, if you haven't had her on here, you should. She is the queen of just like, she will book a trip and then just go by herself. Like she was just in
my angel
in Brussels last week, I think, or something.
Oh, good for her.
She's just sending me pictures from like the train of the European countryside. And I was like, I didn't know you were there. And what? Yeah, she's.
Oh my God. You guys, keep it in. We keep burps and sneezes. We're humans. I just held my finger up to Mel and she's like, what's happening? I'm so scared. Oh my God. Okay. Well, tell me about your travel disaster. Yeah. Like, is it old? Is it new?
It's
like,
old. I don't know. It's on baby.
Okay.
It's not that
from
old,
the
but
archives.
It's old. It's from the archives.
Okay.
So, it was probably 7 years ago.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 7 years old. I was
no, that would be it. I'd be like, I don't even know my
you can remember that?
No, absolutely not. So 7 years ago, I have a really great, very close-knit group of girlfriends from high school, and we do a lot of traveling together now, but we were kind of like very young in our early 20s.
Yeah.
Hadn't done a ton of traveling. And one of our friends was overseas for work in like the Middle East for like 6 months. And she was like, why don't you guys book flights somewhere on this side of the world and we'll go on a trip. And we were like, sounds great.
Yeah.
So we all ended up going to Thailand for like 10 days, which is like the only time in my life I've ever been in Asia. It was amazing. Yeah. And it was like me and 4 of my best girlfriends. And it was awesome.
Everyone raves about Thailand. I haven't been, but it's definitely on my list.
It should be. It was pretty cheap once you were there.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed in like hostels for part of it. And then like, I'll get to that. So anyhow, we go to Thailand. We fly over there. Longest flight, furthest from home I've ever been.
How long is the flight? 18?
So it was like we flew through Japan. So I think that was 13 hours and then maybe another 4 or 5 to Bangkok.
Wow.
So it was far.
Wow.
So we did like 4 cities while we were there. And it's like, it's not like going to, I don't know if you're like going to Canada and you can read the signs or you're going to like,
it's a completely different alphabet.
Yeah,
completely
different. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like if you're in.
That's partially why I'm afraid to go to Asia because I'm like, I will
was
get
real.
lost. There's not like English everywhere.
No, you can't even try to sound something out or like read it and point to it. It's very different.
Right.
And it was also because it was like 7 years ago. It was before people had like access to their phones from like far away. And like you couldn't even just like now you could take a picture of something and the internet can translate it. And it was crazy. I remember we left our first hotel and they had to write down on a piece of paper where we were going so we could like give it to taxis after.
Oh my God.
It was just like, and I've never been back there. And so anyhow, it was a very different trip than anything I'd done.
Yeah.
So we spent like 3 days in Bangkok and then we spent like 3 days in Chiang Mai, and we got to Chiang Mai and we stayed in this hostel there, and it's kind of like up in the north and it's very rustic. And we got a taxi from the airport. We get to the hostel and we get into it, and we like. I remember I was like sharing a bed with one of my girlfriends, and I like look at the sheets, and all of these little bugs were crawling up the sheets.
Mallory,
and I was like, oh my god.
Oh.
And so we were like, it was like we got in at like midnight 1 a.m.
No.
So we're like, okay, we're gonna do the best we can. So we put like T-shirts over our heads, and we were just like, and I'm at that point, I'm younger, so I was still not okay with what was happening, but I was like. Now I would be like, absolutely not. I would never stay in a hostel again. No. But at the time I was like, I
would spend whatever it took to not sleep with bed bugs.
We did. We ended up at a very nice hotel the next day. God, we were like, we balanced this out.
Yeah.
But we were like in bed and we like saw like bugs running up the walls. And then we heard this like squeaking coming from the walls.
What the fuck up?
And I was like, oh my God, there's probably like, what's going on with the pipes? What's happening here? And I emailed my then boyfriend and was like, oh my God, we're in this terrible hostel and they're squeaking in the walls. And then like 3 days later, I had told him like we were in a new place. And he was like, those were rats in the walls, right? And I was like, none of us knew.
It's
and thank God,
rodents.
like the only nice person thing he did was like wait to tell me until we left. So we ended up then checking into the Shangri-La, which is a very nice hotel, and sneaking 5 of us into a room. It was fantastic.
That's awesome. That's the only way you can afford it.
It was really the only way we could. And we were like, we are not staying in this hostel. No. And then, so we went to, from there we went to an island, and the island we had booked it was like a villa there, and it was, I think, like $100 a night total. So like $20 a person.
Me?
It was so cheap there. It was like the most gorgeous villa. It had like its own pool and it was like a beautiful resort, and it had a beach, and it was just like incredible. So we get there and we check all of our stuff into the room, and we go out for the day. And we had booked this like months in advance. Yeah. We were very prepared for this. And so we go out for the day. We come back maybe 8 hours later, and none of our stuff is in the room.
Oh my God.
None of it. Like none of our passports, nothing that was in the safe, nothing was in the room anymore. It was all
But you could still access the room?
Still access the room, but all of our stuff was gone.
No.
So we go up to the front desk, like we get into whatever, and we're like, where the fuck is our stuff?
Oh my God.
And they were like, oh, here it is. It was in garbage bags.
I'm sorry.
They had just like zipped up our suitcases. Anything that wasn't zipped, they had dumped into a garbage bag.
What the fuck?
I know, right?
Why? Is that just their housekeeping methods?
No, I'll tell you why. They had honeymooners that came in, and the honeymooners said, we want the best place. And they thought because they were honeymooners, they were going to kick us out of our room and give them our room, even though we paid for it.
That is not how that works.
I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree. I mean, it was like all of our passports were gone.
Yes.
Like it was so scary.
Right.
So this is like the most disastery part of the trip. But I was like seeing red. Like, can you imagine?
No.
Right? Especially because you're like traveling internationally and someone just takes all your shit.
Yeah. And you're like 20, you're like ripe for the sex trafficking. You're like,
right?
I will literally die here.
I
like,
know.
give me my fucking stuff back.
I know. The sex trafficking is the second part of this story.
Oh God.
So from there. So my best friend and I, my best friend and I, we decide we're going to play a little good cop, bad cop. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go in. I'll be the nice person. And she's the meanest person I know. And I love her so much, but she really can.
She's Susan. Can I speak to the manager?
She is the queen of can I speak to the manager? So we speak to the manager, and he was like, I'm really sorry, but like you're in this new room and it's not as nice, and that's all we're doing. And so she's being a huge bitch. I'm being really patient. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we look at each other and we just switch. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm going to write on Yelp. I'm calling the U.S. Embassy and saying that you stole my passport. And I just God. I went off. And I was like, here's the Travelocity review. And I was like, I don't even remember what I said.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is that they comped our whole stay. They gave us unlimited spa treatments.
Yes.
And they gave us a 5-course meal at the hotel every night that we were there.
That's amazing.
So I'm actually really happy it happened.
Good, because like travel reviews can like fucking break you.
Yeah, especially if your passport's stolen when you're at the hotel. Yeah.
Yes.
So he ended up being great after, I don't know. But anyhow, that part ended up being great.
Good.
And then the last part of our trip, we were going to an even smaller island for a full moon party, which is just a rave that young 20-year-olds do.
I was about to say, I was like,
fucking awesome.
Was Mike Poser there?
Yeah, it was, I mean, probably before he was big, because this was a while ago. He probably had one hit at the time. And the way that you got there was you took this big boat to this shuttle that took you to a little boat, and the little boat was like a little canoe with a motor on the back of it. And it was like the dead of night. We get on there, it's 5 of us, and we're like 25-year-old cute women.
Yeah, it sounds like people fleeing the country.
I mean, we get on this boat and we're like, okay, this is actually how sex trafficking happens.
Yeah.
We were like,
God.
We don't know who these people are. They just picked us up and we said the hotel, and they said that they would take us there. And we're literally in the middle of, I don't know what the fuck ocean or sea it's on.
Oh my God, yeah. You're like, I don't know where we are.
But that's where we are. And we're just sitting there in the middle, and I look at my friend and I go, and she was like, shh.
Oh my God.
So it was like all of us. And then all of a sudden we pull up to this beautiful resort.
Oh, thank
And it was like
God.
on a little island, and it was amazing, but it was terrifying.
For like the 20 minutes that you're on that boat.
Yes.
And you're like, we could very well be going to like a sex trafficking
100%.
auction where someone's going to buy us.
100%. And there would have been I mean, there was no cell phone service.
No.
We
You're in the middle of the ocean.
I was like, these guys would have pulled a gun. Who knows?
Yes. You whip out your phone, it is going in the ocean.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were just like, we made a bad choice.
Yeah, we are too trusting.
And then it ended up being totally fine.
Oh, good.
And then the last part of this crazy trip, which I will say, is we were flying back to the States. We had a flight from the little part of Thailand where we were to Bangkok, and then Bangkok back to Japan home. So
sounds exhausting.
It was already a long travel day. And I think we had like let's call it a 7 p.m. flight out of this little airport. And so we had all thought we'd booked 7 p.m. flights.
Oh gosh.
And we get to the airport, and 3 of the girls were like, no, you booked 1,700 hours, which is a 5 p.m. flight. So they had
that's why I have fucking military time on my phone, and everyone makes fun of me. But I'm like, you need to learn it for the world.
100%. Absolutely. Like,
you need to know.
Yeah.
Because we're the only people that don't use it. And that's when I'm going to go on a tangent. But when I was in Europe, I was totally petrified that we would miss our flights because we wouldn't know the actual time.
Yes, the math is
so I just forced myself
hard
to learn it.
Yeah. My friend, the one who was mean, did her MBA in Madrid. And she just keeps everything on military time now because she's like, no, it's how my brain works now. And it's better. And it is. Yeah, it really is.
I'm better than you.
Right? I mean, I should start doing that. So 3 of the girls missed their flights.
Fuck.
And the one girl who was working in the Middle East at the time, there was 1 flight a day. Otherwise, she would have been stuck in like a very dodgy country. So we were like, we need to get her home. So I, being a huge bitch, was like, okay, well, what if I take the flight to Bangkok and then I try to hold the flight for everyone else?
Oh my God.
And then another nicer girl was like, let's give one of these flights to our friend so she's not stuck in the Middle East by herself.
That's very nice of you. Yeah.
And I didn't do that. Someone else did that.
You're like, hold the plane, please.
Yeah. Oh, could you? Oh, sorry, you can't. Oh, they'll get home in 3 days. Fine. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But so we were like so stressed. We're at the airport. We're like, we don't know what to do. Like the airport is like, there's no more flights. Like the flight is sold out. There's absolutely no way to get you home. And like everyone's in tears. We don't know what's going to happen. We're like, I like am like viscerally remembering like the feeling in everyone's stomach. And then one of the girls, I don't know why, she goes, are there business class seats available? And they were like, oh yeah, plenty. She goes, how much does it cost for a business class seat? It was like $40 for a business class seat. So the 3 fuckers that missed their flight just ended up flying business class the whole way for literally, I was like, why didn't we all fly business class?
Yeah.
And also like at the time I was like, $40 is a lot, but I mean, now I would be like, of course we do. So then everyone made it home.
Oh my God. That's genius. That's a great travel hack too.
I'm
learning so much right now.
I like always ask about the upgrade, I guess, is the lesson. And if it's
too much, fuck it. But like,
if it's
doesn't
not,
have to ask.
they got free booze. They started their party early.
Yeah. You're like,
transatlantic flight.
It is 5:30 in the morning, but I would love a champagne. Thank you
so much.
Yes.
I really need something to take the edge off. How about half a Xanax and a mimosa? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I was like, you fucking bitches up in front. And I was like in the last row.
Oh my God. It'll take you 2 hours to get off the plane.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it was terrible.
That's amazing.
So that was, I mean, that was a trip of travel disasters,
Yeah.
I guess. It was
One
not
thing
one
after
story.
the other.
It was just the whole stressful.
Fuck. You thinking that your passport got stolen, then potentially getting sex trafficked, then potentially having your friend in a war-torn country.
Yes. And I was, then me finding out, you find out a lot of truths about yourself when you're traveling where I was like, oh, I'm not a good person.
No.
Like, I'm not. Like, I would not sacrifice myself for my friend's safety. Like, I could stay in Bangkok for one night, but I'm not gonna. No.
I'm like an everyman for themselves. I'm like, you fucked up.
Yeah.
So
she was like, wait, I didn't book any of this. I didn't even know because she had been overseas and we booked the whole trip for her. She was like, I'll pay you back. And she did. She wasn't even at fault. She was just told.
I know. But you're like, this is really inconveniencing me.
I know.
So I'd
I'm just getting anxiety about the fact of like, I might be stuck over here. So I'm going to take my flight. Thank you. Just the worst person.
Oh my God. That's amazing. I think you're still a good person.
Thank you so much, Mary Kate.
That was such a good fucking story. Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh my God.
And you already told us what trips you have coming up. But after Europe, like, I don't know. Or where are you going in Europe? We didn't really discuss that.
So we're going to Amsterdam for 4 nights and Paris for 3 nights.
Oh, perfect.
I know. It's going to be, I'm so pleased.
Amsterdam is so relaxing.
Good.
You're staying in a hotel, I hope? Okay, because Airbnbs don't exist.
Yeah, I looked at Airbnbs because we were having a hard time with a hotel.
They don't have a ton of extra real estate because it's like an island.
And it felt
not an island, but it's all on water, so they don't have like a ton of free space.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I was looking at Airbnbs and they were all the same price as a hotel.
And the hotels are kind of pricey, which you just can't get out of. But I stayed in a hostel and I will never ever do that again in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
It's all like college kids.
No,
who were like
when were you
drugs.
there?
Last 2 years ago, last year.
Okay.
And like, I was too old to be in a hostel for sure. But I was like, these hotel rooms are insane. But now I'm like, oh, if you go to Amsterdam, just eat the cost.
You know, when I studied abroad in Europe when I was in college and we went to Amsterdam for a weekend and we squeezed 6 girls into the Marriott there. Because we were just like, we know we're going to be fucked up on mushrooms. So
you don't want to be around other people.
No, we didn't. And then 2 of our other friends met us there and they were in a hostel and they were like, oh, you guys did this right.
It's the worst.
It was like.
Oh, you don't want to be around other people?
No, especially if you're kind of fucked up. You want to have like a place to be alone. Yeah, so we're saying, I'm too old for a hostel. We're staying in a hotel.
Good.
Yeah.
And then Paris. Paris. Awesome.
Yes.
I should find the restaurant that I went there. We like kind of stumbled upon it, but it's a really famous French place and the menu is just like set in stone.
Oh, great.
And it's like 3 really traditional like French dishes. There's like a line around the block to get in, but it moves really quick.
Amazing.
I'll send it to you. It was like one of the most like memorable meals that we've ever had. It was really cute.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah, and they just like bring you bottles of wine and like it's just, I mean, it's pricey, but like it was so like everyone around you is just like French as fuck and you just feel like
I love that.
Really great. But it's not even like that bougie. It's just like a traditional like French meal.
So great.
It's
we
so
watched.
fun.
Have you ever seen the show Somebody Feed Phil?
No.
Okay, it's on Netflix. It's Phil Rosenthal's show. He's the showrunner for Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
And so he just travels the world and eats food, and he gets so excited about it. And we watched the one for Paris yesterday, and we were like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, they have really good food.
You would love it. You have to watch that.
Okay,
hot plug for Phil.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to watch all of your stories on Instagram while you're abroad.
Please do.
Just live stream the whole thing to me.
You know I will, girl. You know I can't resist.
I know. And then anything else you want to plug? Like, where can people find you? Any upcoming shows?
So people can find me at Chicago Underground Comedy every Tuesday night at the Beat Kitchen. We start at 9 p.m. It's a great show. Please come hang and support. And then if you want to follow my travel, hit me up on Instagram. It's at MP Brad FO. Like my full name is Mallory Paige Bradford, so it's just the first 2 initials and then the whole last name minus the last 2 letters. If you need to do the math. Bradfo. Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes, and then I'm the same @handle on Twitter too.
Perfect.
I love it.
Thank you
so much for having me. It's so fun. Bye.